Hey, this is the Other On Cinema podcast, the podcast in which myself, Ramsey, an On Cinema superfan, talks with Caleb about On Cinema, who's never seen it, and we watched through the show. Before we kind of get into it, I just wanted to say this is the first episode we've recorded since the first episode published about the original podcast, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's been listening. Honestly, wasn't really expecting to get anyone to listen to it. I was expecting maybe a couple of my friends would, but looks like some people have been interested, so thank you if you've been listening. I appreciate that. We do have an Instagram if you want to follow us. It's just the Other On Cinema podcast on Instagram. If you search us, it should pop up, so you can follow us and message me and tell us that we should keep it about the movies. Yeah, cool. But anyway, Caleb, how are you doing? You just got back from Florida, right?
I did just get back from Florida. I was visiting my brother, Florida man. He's doing well, working all the time, and I'm unemployed. And I had a great time, and it was very, very hot. I wore shorts and a T-shirt, which I haven't done probably in about a year because it hasn't been that warm in about a year. I'm also drinking some boobily sparkling water brought to us by the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Compliments of Ramsey. Thank you, Ramsey.
You're welcome. Did you see any gators in Florida?
I saw actually a lot of gators, probably about half of them wild, but we were purposely going out to see those gators on an airboat. And then a lot of the gators I saw that were absolutely enormous were bred in captivity. But yeah, saw a lot of gators, actually. It was kind of terrifying because the only dangerous animal I've ever run into where I live is a giant black bear. But yeah, I was like standing right above like dozens of giant full-size gators, and they were enormous. And it was like, oh, all this stuff that I see in movies is just happening right in front of me. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, they're like an invasive species, if I understand correctly, down there.
If I understand correctly, I think they're indigenous, but also invasive. They're just have over-reproduced and are like overrunning the ecology there.
They basically run the state.
Yeah, they do.
Cool. I did want to give you guys an update. I was actually editing last week's episode today, and I realized I was going to give you guys an update on the status of us poisoning cows, which was very interesting because the time in between us recording these episodes, there's been a screwworm outbreak in Texas. Caleb, do you know anything about screwworm?
I know that it's something that I most likely am not going to have to worry about because I don't eat beef.
Yeah. So for you listeners who are interested, screwworm is a type of fly that is very parasitic. And what it does is it lands on livestock and it injects its eggs into the livestock's flesh. The maggots basically are born and they eat the flesh of the animal, and it gets really sick and it dies. It affects a lot of different animals, but it's particularly predatory on cows, and we had a big outbreak of it in the U.S. in the 1960s, but we primarily got rid of screwworm globally because the U.S. government was able to produce a sterilized version of the screwworm that they were able to release into the wild, so the female screwworm would try to reproduce with the worm, and they don't have offspring because it's sterilized, so they would die out. It's been a little bit of an issue in Central America, but in the last 20 years, we've been partnering with labs in Panama to develop the sterilized screwworm to release into the wild in Central America to keep it contained. Now, our boys over at Doge last year saw that we were making sterilized screwworms and were like, whoa, that's too woke. And so they cut the funding on that. and shut down that center in Panama. And since then, there's been a huge outbreak of screwworm in Central America, and it's been spreading, and it's finally made its way towards Texas. So if you see your beef prices going up in the next couple of weeks, you can thank your boy Big Balls over at Doge for that.
It's a very bold farming strategy.
Yeah, it is.
To ensure that screwworms get in your product.
Anyway, the reason I bring this up is the DuPont Chemical Company, in light of this news, has decided to no longer poison cows in Ohio for every cell of a Teflon-coated pan. And I decided to not work with them as a sponsor because of that, because if we're not poisoning cows, what's the point, really?
Yeah, what are we even doing here?
What are we even doing?
I guess we're making screwworms. I guess we're spreading screwworms around. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good consolation prize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is the Other on Cinema podcast, a podcast, and we talk about the history of the American screwworm and how I think Big Balls should spend some time in jail. Anyway, we're actually talking about season 3 of On Cinema at the Cinema. I'm excited to talk about this one. Can I give you a little anecdote about this one?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So, not to tell another anecdote about how I did something embarrassing when I was on drugs in my early 20s, but that is what this anecdote is going to be about. So back around 2014, when I was a senior in college, I was doing any drug that was offered to me at the time, and my roommate got strep throat and got 3 months worth of oxys prescribed to them. And this was back in 2014 when doctors were just giving that shit away like candy, and they weren't going to take it. And I was like, can I have it? And they were like, sure. So for a couple of weeks, I was just popping oxys all the time. And yeah, it's really cool. I feel cool about it. Pretty rad. But yeah, I was popping oxys all the time. And it's funny that we were talking about last episode about how you shouldn't drink on painkillers. I ended up doing that, went out with my friends, went out drinking, was popping oxys. I got home. And that night, when I was going to bed, I was watching the latest season of On Cinema at the Cinema, which would have been season 3, as I fell asleep. And I thought it was really hilarious because I was zooted out of my mind. Because as it turns out, if you take painkillers and drink on it, you get really fucking high. Anyway, I pass out. And I start breathing very shallowly, and I wake up gasping for air because I basically had not been breathing. Now, I don't think I was close to dying, but it felt that way in the time.
Didn't it feel like the walls were closing in on you in a way? You feel very you felt suffocated, or?
Yeah, it felt like I had been sitting underwater and then swam back up to the surface and was gasping for air. No, it really wasn't cool. It was really scary. I'm not trying to romanticize that. Don't do painkillers.
But if you do, watch On Cinema.
No, what I was going to say was my moment of reflection was fuck, what if the last thing I saw before I died was Tim Heidecker reviewing Smurf Stew? And I think about that when I watch the season.
Yeah, I mean, anything you do could be the last thing you do, really. So, yeah, it could be the lamest thing in the world. I'm sorry, I'm saying that about something that we're both doing.
No, it's okay. All right. Anyway, let's get into the season. So Tim has gotten the surgery. He's alive, and I just got to say off the bat, his head wrapping is so funny looking.
It is very funny looking, and it seems like he realized that later and was wearing a hat for the next 2 episodes.
Yeah, he just later in my notes, I had that Tim's fedora is just really, really funny. So yeah, Tim has gotten the blood clots removed. He's got wrapping on his head. So first episode, the first thing I have to bring up is the continual argument about if the scoring system goes to 6 bags or 5 bags.
I mean, it goes to 5 bags, and I think
Tim's the host.
Yeah, Tim is the host. And wait, did Tim give something 6 bags?
Yeah, so this has actually happened a couple of times before now, but they haven't brought too much attention to it. Tim will give something 6 bags, and then Greg will be like, well, the score only goes up to 5 bags.
Oh, okay. I misremembered. Yeah. The scoring is only 5 bags. And I just noticed that there was a time where Greg did not interrupt someone giving it 6 bags. So I was like, how can this injustice will not stand? How can he let it stand? But it goes to 5 bags, but it seems like it's kind of a 10, an out of 10 kind of scoring system where sometimes people give an 11 or a 12 if something's really good. And
how many bags of soda do you think should be allowed?
I think any amount that the editors can figure out a way to represent with stock graphics and popping sound effects.
That's free game. Another thing I wanted to note in the first episode when they're reviewing the Lone Ranger, this is the first time they do a joke where Greg insists that anytime not Tim Burton, anytime that Johnny Depp is in a movie, Tim Burton should be directing it.
I don't disagree. I think they make a great duo together.
Yeah. And then the only other thing I wanted to say about the first episode was when Tim says, I was knocking on heaven's door. And then Greg goes, Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan did write that song.
Did he? I thought that was a Guns N' Roses song.
Oh, that might be. No. Oh, is it?
Pretty sure.
Oh, gosh. Okay. I'm looking this up later.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Actually, let's look it up right now.
I know that Guns N' Roses has probably the most famous version of it. It's definitely the one that I heard first. Me and my friends as kids would always laugh at it because we thought his voice was ridiculous. Is it just straight up a Guns N' Roses song?
No, it was written by Bob Dylan. So scratch
Vindicated.
that. Vindicated. I was wrong. I thought it was funny because I thought Guns N' Roses wrote that, but
no, it is Bob Dylan. But I think Guns N' Roses has the more famous.
Well, they definitely do. But
yeah.
So now Greg is not a fool for saying that. This is the first time we get Tim really talking about his wife, and they got divorced.
They did get divorced.
She did not want him to go through with the surgery. What do you make of that?
I make of that, I mean, it sounds like she was probably kind of like new age? Yeah. New age hippy dippy kind of, what do they call it? Granola. And I'm guessing that Tim and her sort of overlap in the Venn diagram of like genre of person is conspiratorialness, because Tim is pretty right-wing conspiratorial, and then it sounds like his wife is, more granola kind of conspiratorial. And so I'm guessing that that's sort of where they meet in the middle, is with the conspiratorialness, and that he should have gotten the surgery. It sounded like she was the one preventing him from that. Maybe she wanted him to die. Maybe she genuinely was worried about the, modern medical industry, the United States in particular. However, she was in the wrong, but I'm guessing that her leaving Tim was kind of a straw that broke the camel's back for her, because I don't imagine being with Tim is the best relationship.
Well, yeah, a popular fan theory is that Tim's wife was basically trying to make him die.
Yeah. Okay.
Another popular fan theory is this season. So this season onward, Tim's going to just kind of progressively go more and more off the rails. And some people suspect it was the blood clots that caused that. What do you think about that?
It honestly, I don't think it'd be the blood clots themselves, but the surgery, because definitely I know people who have had brain surgery and afterwards, not so much their personality changes, but there's just certain things about the way that they process the world that does change, and sort of how they have to navigate does change. And I know there are comedians like Sam Kinison, I think is his name, and oh man, why can't I think? She had a show in the 90s. Oh no, I can't think of her name. But there are definitely comedians that have like gotten hit by buses and stuff, suffered traumatic brain injuries, and then they're just have way less impulse control afterwards, which makes them more successful as comedians. So yeah, I can definitely see having, what is it, like 13 blood clots?
Something like that.
And having surgeons dig around in there, there's definitely going to be some changes afterwards.
So this is also the first time we get Greg talking about any of his coding systems.
Oh, yeah.
How'd you feel about Greg's coding system?
I liked his coding system. That seemed very, very straightforward and functional. I'm not a big fan of him stretching red tape across all of his DVD boxes. It seems like it's just going to destroy the integrity of those boxes.
It's just going to rip that cheap paint off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All that gloss is going to come up with it. But, I mean, as we'll talk about later, it seemed to come in handy.
Yeah. So moving on to episode 2, we already talked about Tim's fedora. It's just so good. It's very funny. That does not look good on him. I got to say, I'm very surprised that Tim was able to pronounce Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but it was, he did a much better job than he did on much easier names. So that was surprising. He was confused as to why anyone would be named that anyways.
Yeah, in this episode, we also get him bringing up that he doesn't like reviewing movies that has nobodies on it. I thought Greg made a surprisingly
salient
point in that today's nobodies are tomorrow's stars, considering they're reviewing Pacific Rim, and he specifically is like, who's Idris Elba? And, he really wasn't that big of a star at the time, but
no,
he's a big star now.
But he had done fantastic work on The Wire.
That's true.
Yeah. I'm surprised Greg didn't know him since he was such a film buff, but I guess that's television, not...
Yeah, Greg doesn't watch TV.
Well, he watches movies on TV, but I don't think he watches TV on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also said that Risky Business was Tom Cruise's first movie, and that he was known from television before that. Risky Business was Tom Cruise's 5th film, immediately following The Outsiders, which would have put him in the general public's radar beforehand. I'm just surprised that Greg would just go out there and tell lies like that.
All right. So at this point in my notes, I stopped recording what episodes I was putting the notes on. The next note I have is Greg's popcorn butter yellow shirt that he gives to Tim. And just the scene of Tim like holding up the shirt next to his face, I find very funny. Yeah.
He was not happy about that shirt.
It's an ugly shirt.
It's a horrifically ugly, and it's a power play from Greg.
Well, here's the thing is, like, I don't think it's a power play. I think it's I think it was Greg legitimately trying to be nice, because I don't think Greg is a sociopath. I don't think he's even necessarily a narcissist. I think that his scope of understanding the world is just so wrapped around just watching movies. He's a very like nice and palatable person if you're doing what he wants to do, which is just talking about movies and watching movies. You'll see this throughout the show is that when Tim is willing to meet him on that level, Greg gets along with him very well.
Yeah. I think, okay, well, I guess the way that I would put it is not that it was a power play, but that Tim feels like it is.
Oh, yeah, sure.
To Tim, it might as
Absolutely.
well be. Yes.
Yeah. The next note I have, I don't know if this is the same episode. I think it might actually be the next episode, but Tim says that Ryan Reynolds is Burt Reynolds' son.
Oh, that's episode 3.
Yeah, that's episode 3. I thought that was very funny. And then one of my favorite parts of, I think this is my favorite bad, it's not my favorite bad Tim line reading, but it's like up there of Tim trying to say Paul Giamatti. And he just goes, Geomedy.
It's almost like he, you know how if you say a word enough, how it starts to sound really weird, and you're like, if you write it out, you're like, it can't be spelled that way, even like common words. I feel like that's what happened to his brain in that moment. He was trying to say Paul Giamatti so much that it just turned into this bizarre...
Geomedy. Just the way he looks off screen. Before we get into the on popcorn segment, did you have any other notes?
Yeah, they call women actresses eye candy, and it's fucking disgusting. They do this multiple times, have done it so far. Forget even what movie they were talking about, but in episode 2, they call some woman eye candy.
And every time Tim says it, he kind of like shakes his shoulders a little bit. It's gross.
Oh, and I looked up, and Tim was about 37 when they were filming this series, and he's definitely acting like someone who's 50 plus.
Yeah.
With episode 3, also the intro audio, like with the intro music and whatnot, the volume jumps up and down harshly between Tim talking, and it even like it's kind of quieter because he's saying one of his dumb catchphrases, and then right before it like goes into Tim and Greg sitting on the seats, it like jolts up for like a second, then jumps right back down and then fades out. And it's like, I don't know if that's deliberate, because it's not on every episode. It's just on certain episodes and it's hard shifts. There's no turning of a knob. There's no fade or anything. It's just literally just jumps up super loud, goes super quiet. So that was something that I witnessed as well. And, for movies with ensemble cast is like watching a drunk octopus try to figure out how to open a bra. It's just like, as soon as it's like a movie with a lot of people in it, I'm just like, oh no, this is gonna be rough.
That's a really great analogy. I mean, this season more than particular with him just going like, I can't do these names.
Yeah, he just like starts giving up.
Just to jump forward, I mean, he clearly still like his cognitive function is not all the way there. Back.
Oh yeah,
season.
true.
Because he says multiple times later, he's just like, I needed more time.
Yeah,
I came back too soon.
Yeah.
And I think at multiple points he's just like, I can't see past like right here.
Yeah, I didn't give him enough grace for his recovery.
Well, that leads to an interesting question is like, why did he do that? Like, I know it's kind of silly. I think more than any other season, I have to question, like, is this a production he's not necessarily totally in control of, because it sort of seems like he's being forced to come back on early.
There's a whole vibe of the show of them being in purgatory or hell. Some form of, because like the whole backdrop's just like pitch black, and they're color graded like ghouls. They're so incredibly pale, and so many of the people they talk about on the show end up dying later in real life, because they talk about actors and directors and stuff, and a lot of them are so old, partially because Tim's playing a 50-year-old, someone who's much older than he really is. So there's just this lingering theme of death. The specter of death lingers over like the whole show. And part of that is like, them being, they're on Adult Swim at this point. They're not on Thing X anymore, but it still seems like he's clearly talking to like producers off screen who are basically not forcing him to do the show, but strongly strongly twisting his elbow to do so.
Yeah. So let's move on to the on popcorn segment, because I think that's a pretty good highlight of this season. Where do you think they're filming this?
I looked it up, and it is not. They're not filming it on the Tim's Kitchen Tips set. Because I saw the set.
Because I would say the set looked very similar to the Tim's Cooking Tips set.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's clearly like it's not either of their homes. Well, for one, Greg says that he no longer has a microwave, which I think is just a really fucking funny throwaway line. And then there's a point where like Tim is like interacting with people off camera saying like, no, it's cool. Come in. We're just filming a thing. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did notice that. Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this segment was really funny. One of my favorite moments of the season is Greg saying, all right, clear your palate with a barbecue potato chip.
And then Tim's like, yeah, now it just tastes like barbecue.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought this segment was really funny, especially really the thing that got me at the end was Greg being like, yeah, the pre-popped one is my favorite one because I unfortunately no longer have a microwave anymore.
It seems like it might just be the only one he can eat since he doesn't have a microwave.
Yeah, you'd think so. All right, moving on forward. So Tim no longer has the hat. And so Tim... A reoccurring motif is they're going to do a bunch of ridiculous things with Tim's hair.
Okay.
Almost every season.
Yeah.
Going on forward from this one. I think the way his hair looks when he stops wearing the fedora in the season is my favorite because it's growing out in such a weird, stupid way.
Yeah, I thought it was crazy. He looked like it's not. The thing is that it's not. If you saw someone with that haircut in the wild, you would be like, huh, because it's like it's normal enough. Like it's like a quote unquote normal haircut, but it's also simultaneously fucking insane. He looks like Sonic the Hedgehog or something. You know, it's so like curved, spiky back and out, but it's also kind of a normal length. So it like I don't know. It's just it's simultaneously normal and insane at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's what I liked about it because like I have kind of like pretty wavy hair, and if it gets cut the wrong way, it can sometimes kind of do crazy shit like that when it's short, and I just appreciated that.
Oh, it reminded me of. Did you ever see the movie Bottle Rocket?
Yeah, are you talking specifically about
Wes Anderson and
Owen Wilson's hair?
It reminded me a lot of
it's been a while since I watched that movie, but yes, that does make sense.
Yeah, that anytime Owen Wilson shows up in that movie and you see his hair, it makes me bust out laughing. Like it's just a base layer of funny. And Tim in this program at this point is no exception.
So I think this is the same episode when he's trying to pronounce the actors' names in the Wolverine. My favorite one out of that was Famke Jameson. I didn't even look up the actor or actress's name that was supposed to be. It was just very funny. Then I think we get an appearance from Joe Estevez this episode.
Yes,
I believe.
Yes, we do.
I just really loved the moment where Tim was explaining that he can't really laugh anymore, and Joe
starts tickling it.
Starts trying to tickle. It's so cute because Joe's just so wholesome.
He is. I did want to make a note about Joe Estevez that I've got two notes here, which is Joe Estevez, so full of life. Especially for someone so much older than Tim and Greg. It makes Tim and Greg look so dull and lifeless in comparison. But then another question I have is Joe Estevez acting? Does he know that Tim and Greg are acting?
He does. And I don't know, maybe in the first couple of seasons, I'm not entirely sure if he knows or not. He becomes a very he's still in the show, basically. He's an important side character. So he understands what the show is. Maybe he didn't super in like the first 2 seasons.
Well, I don't think Tim and Greg really knew either.
Yeah. No, but he's definitely in on the joke. And I actually, we'll get to it, but I wanted to talk about John Aprea a little bit.
I wanted to talk about John Aprea as well. Oh, wait, we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay. But yeah, no, Joe Estevez is incredibly charismatic. It's cool because I've never seen anything that he's in. So
I haven't either. I've been meaning to, but yeah. So moving on. So my favorite review that Tim has done in the show is his review of the Smurfs 2.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why. I love it so much. I wrote down a few quotes he said. He says, it's a very complicated situation for Smurfs to get into this episode of Smurfs. And then he proceeds to also call them the Murphs.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
The Murphs.
That's my favorite movie review that Tim does. In the entire series, I think it's the funniest one.
Well, they described the plot line, and it did seem very contrived and overly convoluted.
Yeah, it's a complicated situation for the Smurfs to get into in this episode of Smurfs.
Yes.
So moving on, what do you think of 500 movies in 500 days?
I'm going to throw some shade here. I feel like Greg might have just invented a bunch of arbitrary criteria for a world record.
It technically is a world record if no one's recorded it before.
It is, but then I've got a question too, which is, I've got so many questions about that. One of which is, how is this even actually being recorded? Because you need some way to verify that you really have watched 500 movies in 500 days.
Well, I was thinking about that too, because I've never really thought about it, but he brings up the paperwork, and it actually, you have to have witnesses of. And he brings that up, but
he's like, "Oh, I'm going to do the first 300 and then get the."
I mean, I don't doubt that Greg is going to do it because all he does is watches movies. But like, it's also saying like, I'm going to take 500 shits in 500 days. You know, like anybody could do that.
Yeah, I'm just
except the most constipated.
Except the most constipated.
And you could argue watching 500 movies in 500 days is easier than that. So.
It is. You don't...
To a constipated person, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's easier if you're constipated. But, yeah, there's... I forget the guy's name, but he plays in the band We the Kings. He plays bass. He was a vlogger. I don't know if he's still vlogging. My mom watched him all the time. But, yeah, there's a guy who, like, vlogged every day. And he got the world record for the longest consistent daily vlogs.
But now that just doesn't mean anything because
there's so many.
Everybody does it every day.
Every day?
Yeah.
Oh, just like on TikToks and whatnot?
Well, yeah, you know.
Yeah, Snapchats.
Clavicular, you know. He's constantly vlogging.
Oh, he's a vlogger? Okay.
Do you not know who Clavicular is?
I mean, I know who he is.
He's famous for just constantly streaming everything he's doing and also being like a fascinating piece of shit.
Yes.
I've been thinking a lot about Clavicular lately.
You've been thinking a lot about him.
Because he bums me out. I just like, what's going on with that person?
Oh, he is not a happy person.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like Elliot Rodgers, but if he didn't kill a bunch of people. Is that the guy?
Because he has a platform, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like that same level of misery. But then he got everything he quote unquote wanted, but he's still absolutely miserable. He's like, I can't smile. It'll give me wrinkles, you know? It's like, I'm not allowed to be happy. I just have to look really good. He's a good looking guy.
Anyway, this is the other On Cinema podcast, the podcast in which we talk about Clavicular. Anyway, so moving on.
I just wanted to finish the thought, which is basically this guy, he was vlogging every day for like 10 years straight, got a world record. But that's 10 years of just straight public documentation. What is Greg doing that would serve as that documentation? He could film himself, but then he'd have 1,500 hours of raw footage of him sitting in front of a television.
I'd watch that. I think that would be compelling.
Well, you should become someone who gives out. You should become an official of Guinness so that you can bestow upon him the world record.
But the problem is Greg can't really do that because Greg doesn't super understand how to work a camera.
No, no, he films his own segments out in the wild on
Not
locations.
Well. Not well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's not the best camera either.
I don't have too many notes until we get to the on location, but I really liked when Greg said Percy Jackson is like The Hobbit meets Jaws. Great Greg line. And then when they're talking about Kick-Ass 2, the whole back and forth about the name is very funny, but I really appreciated when Tim said, at the end of the movie, I stood up and I saluted Jim Carrey and said, thank you,
Jim Carrey. And then Greg is like, always thank you, Jim Carrey. like you should always get Jim, pray for him, pray to him, before supper. I do want to make a note about episode 7. Again, only towards the end of the intro music, it hard cuts, the volume hard cuts up and then back down right before the actual episode starts. The previous episode, the volume jumps up, it just is way louder than the episodes that came before it as well. So I was clipping out my TV speakers. I don't know what the hell is going on. This is an Adult Swim production, so I don't know if it's deliberate because they clearly have really competent people working for them. But yeah, the audio is all over the place in terms of volume. The volume is just all over the place. Kick-Ass should have been named Kick It, so less people would be turned off by the dirty name. More people would go out and see the movie. It'd be great if Jim Carrey starred in a movie titled Kiss Ass as a teacher's pet. Yeah, were we wanting to talk about the on location segment or?
Oh, absolutely. It's very important, the on location segment.
It's very important.
Yeah. So in this on location, Greg presumably travels to San Francisco to shoot an on-location segment from what he says is from Star Trek 2, trying to prove his point that Star Trek 2 is the one where they go back in time to San Francisco. And I thought this was really funny. I love the moment when he's walking towards the camera and smugly winking at the camera, and then it goes, case closed, even though nothing he has shown has proven his argument whatsoever.
Yes, it has proven that most likely there was a Star Trek made that took place at some point in San Francisco. And
this really pisses off Tim, and Tim has already brought in backup evidence to...
Oh, yeah, he had a book on him, the novelization of Star Trek 4.
So Greg is always wrong about everything. Why do you think this in particular pisses off Tim so much?
Because Tim, I think, Tim is very similar to William Shatner, and I think he sees a lot of himself in William Shatner, wishes that he was more like William Shatner. So the fact that Greg is encroaching on that territory.
What do you mean Tim is like William Shatner? What is it?
He looks like William Shatner. He's an old boomer like William Shatner. He's just got a similar body type. And I bet that Tim watched William Shatner in Star Trek when he was younger. And so he's probably kind of a hero to him. That's just the vibe that I get. Because, why else would he care so much?
I mean, I think he cares because out of everything, this is just the thing that Greg is so blatantly wrong about. And he refuses to concede on it at all.
Yeah, but then how would Tim know? Tim knows so much about Star Trek in the first place to know. I know it's not so much because it's not deep lore, but I knew that at some point in Star Trek, Spock is in San Francisco because he pressure pinches a dude playing a loud boombox on the bus to knock him out. That's all I knew. So obviously he's seen enough of the movies to know what takes place in each of the movies.
Well, but Star Trek 2, that's like the most famous.
Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone knows Star Trek 2 is Wrath of Khan. Not everyone,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
if you know anything about Star Trek movies, like that's the most well-known one.
Yes.
So it's just kind of ridiculous. Anyway, so Greg gets fired over this because he refuses to concede to the fact that.
Well, I mean, this is the question too, which is there, and I think we get the answer in this episode, which is there literally anything that anyone could do to convince Greg that he is wrong about anything?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's the answer that we got, I feel, in this episode.
Well, that's what's great is there's so many moments where Greg, he gets put into positions where he's like very obviously proven wrong, and he just makes up these ridiculous, convoluted like ways in which he is right that don't make any sense. And we've seen a little bit of this before, but this is the first like big thing. Well, he's saying, oh, they condensed all 4 of the movies into this one book. So of course it's going to have Star Trek 4, which is the Wrath of Khan or whatever, into it. It's very ridiculous. It's very funny. So, but anyway, Greg gets fired. We move on to the next episode, and we've got 2 new guest hosts. We've got John Aprea and Ayaka. Before we get into the Ayaka of it all, last episode when we were talking about the first On Cinema Oscar special, we didn't talk about John Aprea at all. I wanted to talk a little bit about it because I think John Aprea is the weirdest celebrity guest they have on the show, because they never address why he's on the show. Because like Joe Estevez, they sort of build in a reason why he's on the show, is because Greg kind of like bombard interviews him, and you can kind of like speculate that they just kind of, maybe they roped him into it. But also like Joe Estevez is kind of a very famous like B-movie actor. John Aprea is like a fairly well-regarded actor, like especially during, like he was in The Godfather 2. He was in a bunch of like really big name movies, and he's just like randomly in the show. And I like him in the show. I think him in this episode is very funny. I think especially when he's talking about him being like, my favorite director's Franz, Mr. Coppola. I can't say his name right now. He's trying to cast me in this next movie. Yeah, I just think it's interesting. Why do you think John Aprea is on the show?
Well, the real life reason, or to be honest,
either
real life reason or in canon
either, because
reason,
I've never read an interview with anybody of why he was on the show, because like Tim has done interviews and has explained why Joe Estevez is on the show, but he's never mentioned why John Aprea is on the show.
Here's my guess. Obviously, like Tim, the real life person, and Greg, the real life person, they are in the entertainment industry. Which even that sounds weird to say because they're so fucking weird. Like it's so their place in the entertainment industry is so like I feel on the fringes in a way. But like they obviously know people who know people and have quote unquote connections. So, but it almost feels like John Aprea being on the show is almost like somehow they got in contact with him and we're just like, hey. I guess I like a headcanon, which is that Greg ran into him at like a coffee shop or something. And because Greg watches so many movies and does nothing else, he immediately recognized him. Whereas like most people would see John Aprea and just not even, just like, oh, it's just some guy. So I'm imagining that Greg runs into him and is like, hey, okay. All right, buddy.
So if you guys can hear some screaming in the background, it's my geriatric Boston Terrier who records with us, and he gets very upset when Caleb doesn't pet him enough.
All right, buddy. All right. And then if
do you want to do any noises in the microphone, buddy?
My buddy. Yeah, when he gets held on his back, it's like flipping a shark. And he goes full catatonic.
But yeah, I just wonder why how he ended up in the show, because he doesn't become a recurring character. He pops up a couple of more times in the show after this. I think only maybe 2 or 3 times. He's not like Joe, where Joe becomes like a cast member basically.
Yeah, I'm guessing that my headcanon would be that Greg runs into him. Either Greg runs into him in like a coffee shop or something, because they're in LA. They're in Hollywood. Glitzy Hollywood.
Hollywood, California, where these stories have just but a few. Is that how he says it?
I don't know.
On location. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. I do want to just make a mention, too, that like Hollywood's not a particularly nice city. Like, it's kind of just a city. But that's my headcanon, is that either he runs into him in like a coffee shop, recognizes him, one of the few people that even would, or knows a friend of a friend who knows him and basically is just like, oh, hey, do you want to be, is it all right if I interview you for my show? Or do you want to show up, be a guest on my show for, a few minutes? That's what I'm guessing. That's it's very unexciting headcanon, but that's my guess.
Yeah, it's just so confusing.
Random
because like it's funny too, because he seems like excited to be on the show, where like when they have Joe on, Joe just kind of seems like he's just like, oh, where am I? sort of a deal. But yeah, so we got John Aprea, and we've got Ayaka, and it's been revealed that Tim and Ayaka are dating now, which is that's a big plot point. So I have to ask, how old do you think Ayaka is? Because they say she's a foreign exchange student, which I guess she could have been in college at the time. But my experience, at least when I was in college, there was a lot of foreign exchange students at my college, but they stayed in the dorms, where the foreign exchange students at my high schools usually stayed
in houses.
Yeah, so I'm guessing she's probably like 18, 19.
Yeah, that's gross.
I mean, even if she was 22, that would be weird.
Yeah. My headcanon is 20. That's just where I'm roughly putting it. Yeah, that's because I'm just like, well, maybe. Although, the timeline wise, I think she would have to be like 18 or 19. So for that to make sense.
I mean, either way, way too young for Tim.
Yeah, it's fucking gross. But Tim's so happy about it.
And Ayaka does a Popcorn Classics with Airheads.
Yeah, Airheads. Where'd she get that? Oh, yeah. She got that VHS. She stole
we'll
it.
Get into that. Well, no, she didn't steal it. Tim stole it.
Airheads. You just watch it and you don't have to think.
So next episode, we have Greg back already. Why do you think Greg's already back?
Because he got fired. Oh, why? Yeah, why would he be back?
My theory is that so he got John Aprea on, and John Aprea, he's a good guest host. And John Aprea said, "Oh yeah, I'd like to be back." Then he watched the show, was like, "Oh, this is dog shit. I'm not gonna come back on this." And Tim was like, well, I need another host. I can't just have Ayaka on. She barely understands the rating system. So he begrudgingly brings Greg back, who is back, but looks very unhappy to be there.
The establishing shot of just Tim next to Ayaka and then Greg 5 feet away, just looking absolutely displeased, made me bust out laughing. It's a story. Picture's worth 1,000 words, and that tells quite the story just with one frame. Greg is not having it, but I think he cannot say no to the opportunity to watch and talk about movies. So, of course, he's going to be there, even if he hates it. Tim has Greg on because he's not going to be able to get anyone else.
So they start talking about the One Direction movie, or the other movie. I can't remember which movie they're talking about, but when...
Buddy.
Goliath. It's okay. We're trying to record a podcast here, bud. Can you calm down? Anyway, when Tim's like talking about fooling around with Ayaka in the movie theater, and just he keeps like looking at the camera and stuff and like being like, oof.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I'm just like, bro, like you're 40. Like, that's gross.
Again, Tim's 37 in real life. Not that that makes that any better, but he's also playing like 50 plus, so it's even grosser, I feel. It seemed to have, I feel absolutely disgusting saying this, but it seemed to have almost cured his dyslexia. Because he read I think it just the fact that he was happy, I think, is somewhat happy, seemed to have temporarily cured his dyslexia because he was able to read the names and movie titles with little issue.
That's a good point. Ayaka cured his dyslexia. Something I took note of is, so Greg really, well, for one thing, historically, this is going to be the lowest moving rating either of them give in the entirety of the show. Wow. And I have to point something out because not this Oscar special, but the last Oscar special, I went to a live showing of it, and they were doing on cinema trivia during the breaks, and I won one of the questions because they asked what is the lowest rated movie that was reviewed, and small spoiler, I said Ant-Man with 1 bag of popcorn, which Greg is in. Which Greg is in, yeah. That's not true, because it's actually the One Direction movie, which has 0 bags of popcorn in a black hole that sucks in popcorn in it. So Beacon Cinema host who hosts the annual On Cinema Oscar special live tapings, I'm calling you out.
Wow.
You falsely gave me a copy of Mickey Blue Eyes. That was another thing, is they were giving out copies of like shitty VHS tapes. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
This injustice will not stand, though. I guess you have to give your VHS tape back?
No, I'm keeping that.
Oh, okay.
It's part of my shrine.
I saw your shrine.
Yeah.
On the internet.
I have a problem.
You have it here in real life.
Yeah.
I can see it.
In the room next over. So after Greg gives his scathing review of the One Direction movie, he reveals that he found the Airheads tape in Ayaka's purse, which had the remnants of his coding system tape on it. And Ayaka reveals that she found it in a box in Tim's room, which, I mean, yeah, Tim stole the tape.
Tim stole the tape.
Of course he stole the tape. It's just so funny that Tim could just tell Greg to fuck off or whatever, but he like defends Greg a little bit and like throws Ayaka under the bus. That's an interesting move.
It is an interesting move.
Tim is weirdly loyal to Greg.
Well, I think so much has happened in just this episode and the last one. And I think part of it is that on some level, Tim has to know that there's not a lasting relationship to be had with someone 20 years his junior. And so he is making a strategic kind of value-based, not value like morals, but value like literally what can I get out of this? And it's like, well, he can have some fun with Ayaka for a while, or he can spend an eternity with Craig talking about movies and having some level of more long-term kind of companionship, so to speak. And I think that was his call in that moment was, I guess I care more about this long-term thing with Greg than my short-term thing with Ayaka. And so he made the call of, all right, I'm going to throw Ayaka under the bus, or at least try to.
Well, and yeah, just skipping forward to the next episode, it's revealed that Ayaka got deported, which a lot of fans theorized that Tim, like, called her in. But something I noticed was when he was talking about, like, why they broke up, he was just like, yeah, she was a lot younger than me. There was a big age difference. But he also says, I was also getting a lot of calls from Japan asking her to come home, which made me think, I wonder if Ayaka's family found out that they were dating and were just like, fuck no.
Yeah. Yeah. It could have been any of those. My conspiracy theory was that Greg had Ayaka deported.
No, Greg likes Ayaka.
Oh, okay.
We'll find this out later.
Okay. Yeah, that was my suspicion, was that Greg had Ayaka deported. Not even that he thought that she stole the tapes, but just thought that he could pin it on her and get her gone so that he could be, again, the only guest on the show.
Yeah, that's the thing about Greg is like as petty and small as he can be about stuff like that, I don't think he would ever really do anything that direct to anyone.
Okay.
So the last note I had was my favorite bad name reading was Tim at the end trying to say Dave Bautista's name and said Dave Barista.
Dave Barista. He also starts by calling him David as well. David Bautista, which I thought was funny because this was before Dave Bautista was like that famous too.
Yeah, I don't think he was really much of a like. I didn't know who Dave Bautista was at this point.
Yeah, it wasn't till Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're at the end of season 3. As we end every episode, how are you? What are your thoughts now that we've got some more progression? I will say, I think this is the last season that feels kind of contained.
Okay.
Going forward, the universe is going to start slowly expanding as more and more of both Tim and Greg's projects and personal problems come into affecting the show. But yeah, what do you think of this season?
It did feel very much like similar to season 2. Again, felt like they were kind of ramping up not the broadness, but it's still not over the top like a big, I mean, like nothing like Tim and Eric, but it's a little bigger in terms of what they're doing, like comedically and with the story. I mean, it starts with Tim wrapped in head bandages post surgery with bruises around under his eyes, and that's how it starts. I'm curious to see where it goes, especially in season 4. But I do have, my big thing is like more of an emotional concern that I have, which is that Greg gets fired and he was wrong. So it makes sense. I'm glad that Tim stood up for himself, but Greg gets fired and then Tim has him crawling back, and Greg is rifling through some poor Japanese teenager's purse.
Well, the bag was open. You could just see it.
But then he rifled through a purse.
Yeah.
It was open. it was open. So then I rifled through it. And then in the next episode, he's just back in the saddle, and it just made me feel that Tim had dragged Greg down to his level, at least temporarily. Oh, also that Greg and Tim were hanging out outside of the show and talking about it.
We didn't talk about that. Yeah, for a little bit they were getting along. They were hanging out at Carrabba's.
Carrabba's?
Yeah. You ever eaten at Carrabba's?
Is that a real place?
Yeah.
All right.
It's like a fancier Olive Garden.
Oh, okay.
The only reason I bring, so they bring up Carrabba's every now and again throughout the course of the show. So I work in sales and I have to travel a lot. And every time I have to go to our company's headquarters down in Georgia, me and the other salespeople go to Carrabba's in the airport. Yeah. And I thought it was really funny because I didn't realize Carrabba's was a real place.
You thought it was just like an airport place?
Well, no, I didn't realize it was a real. I thought it was just like a fake restaurant they said on the show.
Yeah,
and I was expecting it to be really bad. It's actually pretty good.
Oh, okay.
I recommend Carrabba's. Yeah, cool. If you're gonna go to fast Italian food, go to Carrabba's. Don't go to Olive Garden. They don't have them up here in Seattle.
But. Yeah, they have Due Cucina though, which is quite good. They're like going out and having a good time, going on mandates and whatnot. And
they have a bromance.
Bromance, as it's called, yes. As everyone knows, I Love You Man, which invented the term bromance by sheer marketing. Didn't exist before then. They're hanging out and enjoying each other's company, and Tim is being emotionally vulnerable, which is both nice, but also, like, it really makes me concerned for Greg, because Tim is just digging his hooks in. And now Greg being fully back in the saddle by episode 10. It just makes me feel really bad for Greg because it's like, oh man, he should leave because Tim's so toxic, yet he's getting further into this with Tim.
What I will say, and I think part of why Tim is so attached to Greg is that Tim really needs Greg, but Greg doesn't need Tim outside of wanting to be on the show and having a platform.
Okay, understood.
Like I said, Greg gets along with Tim when he just wants to talk about movies and stuff, but Greg doesn't need Tim.
Yeah.
Tim needs Greg.
Oh, yeah, because Greg can just watch a movie. He doesn't need the emotional support or...
Well, yeah, we didn't even go over that whole thing where Tim's talking about is like, I kind of have a vacuum in my life now, and I've been hanging out with Greg. Greg's never going to have that in the same way.
Heck yeah.
His first love is movies, and he's never going to lose that.
Never. I mean, you can always just put on a movie no matter what. You got them on your cell phone at this point. No matter how...
Though I don't think Greg owns a cell phone.
Yeah, well, no matter how many household appliances he loses, he can always go and watch a movie in the theater.
Great, cool. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. So next week, we are going to cover the second On Cinema Oscar special, which I'm excited to talk about because they expand the format of it a lot.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And they make it the season finale.
Not necessarily. I think it's a couple of seasons ahead before they start formatting this. The second one, I think, actually is towards the beginning of the season.
Okay.
I think it takes them a little bit for them to get into that format, but I'm excited to talk about it. But until then, thanks for listening, guys. This is the Other On Cinema podcast, and until next week, don't get screwworm. Hey, this is Ramsey post-editing. We are actually going to be talking about Season 4 as well as the annual On Cinema Christmas special next week. I got the timeline mixed up because I'm a hack and a fraud. Anyway, see you next week.